Welcome back to the Fit40 Podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition for busy people 40 plus so they can improve their health and feel amazing. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach for people over 40 since 2015. And today we have an awesome topic. We are going to be talking about the 7 things that are secretly stalling fat loss after 40. We're going to be talking about everything from nutrition, fitness, mindset. We're going to cover it all. But before we do, make sure that if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening so that way you don't miss another episode just like this to help keep you on the path, keep you doing the right things so that you can reach your long-term goals. All right, so let's talk about it. 7 things. Let's start with number 1. What is that first one? And I put this first because I hear this so much. And that is when we're eating healthy, but we're really not understanding our nutrients or calories. Like we're eating all the right things that we think we should be eating, but nothing's really happening. The scale's not moving. We're not feeling different in our clothes. Like might have a little bit more energy, but we're not seeing the number change that we want to see. And that's because usually when we eat healthy, we're still usually really low on protein, actually sometimes low on fiber, even though we're eating all these fruits and veggies. Like sometimes fiber is a little bit low too, and the calories are just too high. Okay. So when it comes to calories, for example, a lot of times when we eat healthy, that usually means very healthy, but fat sources come into play, like nuts, like oils that are good for us, but not in excess. Okay. And those things come with a lot of calories, even though they are technically healthy. They're whole foods. They're things that we should be eating. But when those calories are too high, even if they're the best quality of calories, it will still add on body fat. It will still get stored as fat if we have no use for it in our bodily functions with when it comes to exercise, when it comes to everything that burns up calories. If we have too many, we put it away for fat so we can use it later. All right. And this gets really into the whole idea of like, if you're not tracking calories, if you don't have any idea of where your calories are, you're going to fall into that statistic of the people that they study in metabolic ward studies where they know exactly how much they're eating and they ask them to self-report and they find the discrepancy. And usually they're off by anywhere from 31 to 61%. So if you want to fall into that statistic because you refuse to like get a grip on what these things are, that will stall your progress and even move you further away from your goals. Along with that, like for example, not having enough fiber being one of the big things. People think, oh, I'm going to eat more vegetables. It's going to get my fiber up. When you actually put it down in your tracker, you find that, hey, this spinach, it does have fiber in it, but it doesn't have a lot. It's like 1 gram or 2 grams for this huge amount because you need calories to come with that. Like fiber doesn't just come from nothing. It's not something made out of air. Like you need calories to go with it. So if you're having something that's only like 20 calories, you can assume, hey, it's not going to have a lot of fiber in there because fiber comes from carbohydrates. So you need things like fruits in there, which are also one of the things that a lot of people eat, which is great. But like a banana only has like 2 grams, maybe sometimes 3 grams of fiber based on the size of the banana, but berries can have like 8 to 10 grams. So you really have to know what to eat to get those certain fiber amounts because you want to get over 25 grams of fiber per day. And if you're only getting 2 grams with your banana and you're only getting maybe 3 grams with your salad at lunchtime because you're just having like iceberg lettuce and maybe like some nuts in there, which will give you a little more fiber. And then at nighttime, you're having your starchy carb. So you're not really getting anything. You're only getting like maybe 10 grams of fiber throughout the day. So you're going to feel hungrier, which is going to make you usually eat more calories anyway. Same with protein. When you go whole foods, like, yeah, you're eating a lot more fruits and veggies and all the things, but a lot of times people just avoid meat entirely, or they are eating meat that's lean, which is great, but they're filling up on very little protein. So you're not hitting your protein goals. If you're an active adult where you want to get about 1 gram per pound of lean body mass, you're not even coming close to that because we're sticking to the protein that we normally eat, not how much you actually need to fuel your results. So this stuff really does matter, and it can get in the way of fat loss and just make the whole thing harder than it needs to be. Next is dieting for too long without a break. Now, this is very common because it's very typical for people to be on or off. Like when they're on their diet, they're on it and they're just going. And some people, depending on how much they can put up with feeling like crap or feeling unmotivated or whatever, they could push it really, really far. And The problem with this is no matter how much weight you lose, whether it's nothing, whether it's like 100 pounds, if you never experience what a real maintenance phase feels like, you're never going to keep that weight off long term. And it will reinforce that on and off dieting. It's like I'm either on the plan or I'm off the plan. And it's this never ending cycle, which it's not really stalling progress because, yeah, you're seeing that progress, but then you're not getting stalled. You're like, pulling it back in reverse and starting back over from square one. So it's almost worse than stalling your progress. It is worse than stalling your progress because it'll reduce your muscle mass, it'll worsen your relationship with food, and it'll do all these negative things because you just pushed it too far. You need to understand what maintenance looks like because people that lose weight and keep it off for good don't just lose it all in one go and then never put it back on. They go through a series of lose a chunk of weight and then maintain where they're at and then lose another chunk and then maintain. Or they hit a busy season of life where they don't necessarily like stick to their plan perfectly, but they do just enough where they don't lose any progress. And then that's their pause. And then when they can dial it back in, they go back into that and they do what they need to do, lose another chunk of weight, and then boom, life happens again. They know how to hold on until life clears up or how to make little progress going forward during the crazy times. And that's a skill that no one really seems to master until they seek out some help from somebody who knows how to do that. Because we're not just ingrained with this information. We don't understand, hey, when the tough times hit, I'm going to just, instead of doing 3 workouts a week, I'm going to go down to 2 because the average person says, oh, I can't get my 3 workouts in. I can't do this. I just suck at this. Like I should be able to do this. And then they end up doing nothing. So it really comes down to figuring that out for yourself and what that looks like, what you can do during those times. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, not just the workouts, but also understanding nutritional choices when you are out to eat or when you can't have access to your normal foods. Like I literally just had a client where we came off of a month of them not having access to a refrigerator. Like stuff like that happens and you need to know how to navigate. By the way, fun fact, it was a husband and wife combo and husband's crushing it, but wife, she actually ended up losing about a pound and a half while they were out with a refrigerator, like while they were eating more processed foods, when they were eating more comfort foods and things like that, having people bring them food at work and stuff. So it's possible, but you need to know how to navigate. So don't diet for too long without a maintenance break because you don't want to miss out on learning those skills. And you also don't want the downsides of an extended deficit. So like, let's say you're not one of these people that's like, oh, I've been dieting forever, but I got nothing to show for it. No, let's say you are one of those people who diet a lot, you lose a lot of weight and you just keep it going because you're like, this is great. I want to keep it going. I want to keep it going. But you push through these negative aspects. Like all of a sudden you don't have a lot of energy. And then you start feeling more hungry. You start feeling less full, okay? Because your hormones will change when you lose weight for a prolonged period of time. Leptin and ghrelin are the big ones. Like leptin helps you feel full, ghrelin makes you feel hungry. As you diet more and more and more, leptin, which makes you feel more full, starts to go down. Ghrelin, which makes you feel hungry, starts to go up. And that's just naturally what our bodies do to try and get us to stop losing weight because our bodies just don't want to. So that's one of the defense mechanisms that is built in. And then there's also burnout on the dieting mindset because when you're in a diet, you are in that mindset of saying no to things like limiting yourself, getting comfortable with hunger and all these things. And that does eat at you a little bit, pun intended. Okay. But being out of that dieting mindset and feeling like, okay, I have more freedom to eat certain things without the fear of gaining all the weight back. Like you need to experience that instead of just being in this diet mindset, because otherwise it's going to lead to burnout and you're going to say, screw it. And then go back to old habits, which are going to get us back to the way that we were prior to starting. And also the worst of it all is losing muscle. If you diet for too long, you will lose muscle. You see it on people with GLP-1 medications that lose too fast, or people that don't even do GLP-1s that just starve themselves and they lose really, really fast. You can only lose X amount of fat per week, per month. If you go past that point, your body is pulling from lean muscle tissue, from organ tissue, from bone density, and it is going to negatively impact your health. So you definitely don't want to do that because eventually when it does do that, it's going to cause a plateau because you have less calories being burned at rest. Your basal metabolic rate, which is the biggest chunk of your metabolism, starts to lower to the point where you will hit a plateau. And now you can't eat as many calories as you did prior and lose weight or maintain weight. So you're more likely to gain weight back because you dieted for too long, too hard. So we don't want that happening. Number three is chasing the wrong metrics. Okay. A lot of people go at their journey, their weight loss journey, their fat loss journey, their health journey, only thinking about scale weight. And anytime the weight doesn't match their expectations, it's like, I failed. I'm horrible. I can't believe I wrecked all my progress. Whereas if you caught any of the previous episodes, I know I did much deeper dive on this stuff like last week, I believe. So if you go like 2 episodes back, that should be the one about what happens when the scale goes up. It'll explain why this is such a flawed concept. Don't just chase weight. The metrics that matter the most are inches. So when we talk about inches, I'm talking about things like around your midsection, your hips, your neck. Okay. These are areas where if we have less body fat, we're generally healthier. Like for example, your neck, if it's a certain circumference or greater, you're at a higher risk for things like sleep apnea or other complications like that come from having a bigger neck. Or around your midsection, that's a really good tell of visceral fat. So that's the fat that surrounds your organs that can come with a lot of negative health outcomes. So if we can reduce your waist circumference, then your health is going to be greatly improved and your risk factors for a lot of things are going to go down. And then when it comes to your hips, it also helps with the equation too, because when we compare hips to waist, your hip to waist ratio can tell us a whole lot about your risk factor for certain things as well. And if you're trying to build muscle, for example, it can be really helpful to get your hip versus waist, because if your waist doesn't change, but your hips increase, that's a good tell that, hey, my quads are growing, my butt is growing. So if you have goals of like increasing glute size, it could really, really help. But we're talking about fat loss and weight loss here. So when it comes to that aspect, it really does help to understand that if your inches are going down, regardless of what the scale says, you are losing body fat. All right. Because when you weigh in day to day, it's more of a measure of your bowel movements and your water fluctuation, not your fat loss. Just if you really need a mental reset, stop measuring your weight for a couple of months and just focus on the inches. Or if you're really opposed to doing inches, find some tight fitting clothes. And then if those clothes fit a little bit better, you know you're burning body fat and you know you're probably improving your health, assuming you're not driving your body fat levels too low. Because again, health is the name of the game. You need to understand what the end goal is here and what that looks like. So for the ladies, for a lot of them, it's somewhere in that 20 to 30% body fat range. And for the men, it's like 10 to 15, 10 to 20% body fat range. And those are rough estimates. You can go a little bit lower, a little bit higher, depending on genetics, depending on ethnicity. There's a lot of things at play, but it does help to have some general guidance as far as what that end goal looks like. Next, number 4 is stress that never shuts off. This is one of those things that seems to impact pretty much every single person I talk to. Okay. This is that chronic stress. Okay. Those things that we just are constantly dealing with, whether it's work stress or we have a family member that's driving us nuts, or kids or a spouse or anything where it's like, there's just that stress never turns off. And that could be a gigantic stall in the progress. It could lead to things like increasing your cravings, because when we're more stressed out, we do crave things that are comfort foods to help us feel a little bit better. This could negatively impact sleep. And when your sleep is bad, we're going to get more into that, but it can negatively impact a lot of things. And then on top of that, when you are more stressed out and your cortisol is sky high and you've got all these things working against you, it hormonally impacts you in a way that you're more likely to put on more belly fat. And it will change how many calories you're burning and make you burn less calories overall. So you're more likely to gain weight. So when you're stressed out beyond belief, it can really, really hurt. But what we want to do is take control of whatever stressors are controllable. Okay. I know I'm saying all these things are negative. All this stuff can happen, but then you kind of are left with, well, what do I do? What you want to do is take a look at your stressors and say, what can I actually change? What do I have some control over? Am I able to set up productive boundaries with that toxic person in my life? Am I able to limit my social media use so that way I'm not riding this emotional roller coaster that Fox News or CNN has me on? Okay. Can I limit these things that are causing me to just go off the wall throughout the day, like work tasks, or anything like that? Like, can I set up my do not disturb on my phone in a way that doesn't hurt my work productivity? I could still get in touch with my family, but I don't feel like my stress is impacted in a negative way when I'm able to not let these certain things notify me in the moment. Okay. So getting control over your technology is a big, big one. Now, I know I just mentioned sleep, and that's because number 5 is sleeping like it's optional. Okay. One of these things that is common is just sacrifice sleep. It's like, well, I got a lot of work to do. All right, let's sacrifice an hour of sleep. Oh, I want to spend more time with my spouse. I'll trim some hours off my sleep tonight. I want to catch this show because it gets on at 11 and I want to see it when it first comes out. I'll sacrifice an hour here and there. And I'm guilty of all of those, but we can't keep doing that all the time, because when we get in this rhythm of poor sleep, it will negatively impact your hormones. All those ones I just mentioned get negatively impacted by sleep as well. Like leptin and ghrelin, they are thrown off for the next day. Your insulin sensitivity is similar to somebody who's pre-diabetic when you get crap sleep. Okay. You are more likely to make poor food decisions because the frontal lobe of your brain is now affected and that decision-making center is fatigued. So you don't want to keep making decisions. You're going to be more impulsive. You're going to have all these things working against you. So it's going to, for 99, not even like 9,999 people out of 10,000, it's going to make this harder, borderline impossible, if we can't somehow get a hold on our sleep. And if you don't have the ability to add hours, add quality to the best of your ability. Control the environment, make it like a cave, cold, dark, and quiet as best as you possibly can, and control what you can control. Number 6 is doing too much cardio and not enough strength. Okay. A lot of people will say, I'm just going to do cardio to lose the weight, and then I'm going to do strength to make sure I get toned and I build the muscle and I keep the weight off. That's not how this goes. Okay. And if you want fastest results, like burning the most body fat possible in the shortest amount of time, strength training is going to get you there faster than cardio will, because cardio will in the moment show you, hey, you're burning more calories in this one go. Like you are going to see on your treadmill or on your watch, you're going to see this giant calorie burn compared to strength training, because it's going to estimate based on your heart rate, not like your muscular contractions, not your effort, not all these things that are going to impact your body. It's literally just going by your heart rate and then using your height and your weight and things to estimate it. It's not getting all the metrics, because if it did, it would tell you that, hey, when you do strength training and you do recover from strength training, that increases what's called EPOC, basically post-exercise oxidative consumption. I don't know why they call it EPOC. It's probably a different order, but that's what it is. It's post-exercise, like healing, and that requires a lot of calories. So that will actually end up overall burning more calories in like in that 24-hour span, rather than just that 1 hour of cardio burning a bunch of calories, but not burning quite as many over the 24-hour span, if you catch my drift. Okay. And on top of that, when you build more muscle, you burn more calories throughout the day at rest going forward, because that will contribute to your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. The biggest chunk of the pie of how many calories you burn throughout the day will increase, because now you've got all this muscle on you. It requires a lot of energy to maintain muscle, more than fat. So you're going to burn more calories as a more muscular version of you than a less muscular version of you. Okay. And then with that also comes better insulin sensitivity. So metabolically, you are in a better place to handle carbohydrates. So now, instead of getting these spikes and crashes all the time, your body can handle it and say, hey, I'm not going to have these crazy spikes and crashes. I'm not going to have as increased hunger or dips in energy. It's like your body is better at handling carbohydrates overall and putting them to use in a way that serves you better. And you have more physical independence. So like, let's say you're too weak to do certain things. All of a sudden you got more muscle, you're able to do more. Like I know I was working with a client who really sat around a lot because she just did not have the strength or the energy to move a lot. And then we get to working out for a month or two, and she's like, I'm doing more chores around the house. I'm washing the dishes. I'm doing all these things. And even my family's saying, wow, you're moving a lot compared to like a month or two ago. And that burns calories. So that will help your fat loss efforts, and it'll increase what's called NEAT. non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is the second biggest chunk of that pie of burned calories throughout the day. So that will help a lot. Okay. So that being said, go for strength training and cardio. But if you have to pick between one or the other, strength is probably going to serve you better. Okay. But still do cardio. Please still do cardio. And then last but not least, number 7 is weekend relaxing that turns into damage control. So this is a very common cycle to fall into where we're on it. We're perfect Monday through Thursday, and even breakfast and lunch on Friday. But then want to get some drinks with friends after work, or you have a kid's game, so you have to pick up some fast food on the way there, or we're watching sports, so you decide, hey, I'll just have one drink while I'm watching, and then that turns into more, and then we end up ordering an appetizer and entree, and then we go crazy. Or maybe there's a social event, like you have a party to go to, and you don't have control of the food, so you eat what's there, and you're like, oh, well, while I'm here, I'm not going to be able to eat all this food normally, so I'm going to eat it now while I can. And then that ends up adding up calories. It ends up with us feeling bloated and lethargic the next day, hopping on the scale and being like, oh my God, what the hell happened? And we fall into this negative cycle. So we don't want that to happen. We want to get to a place where we don't have this up and down type of week where it's like calories are low, then they're super high. Okay. We want to figure out, okay, what can we get away with? Like, what are strategies that work that minimize the quote unquote damage, where you can stay pretty good all week, but let's say you have one meal out of that week where you're like, okay, I'll let loose a little bit. I'll stick to like what I love telling clients is the 1 plate rule. Have whatever you want, just stick to 1 plate. That'll control for portions. And the chances of you going so far over that you blow the entire week are basically 0. So simple strategies like that. Or you can like zoom out a little bit further and say, okay, what season am I in right now? Because a lot of times it comes down to just saying, you know what, for this month or this 2-3 month stretch, I am going to be on it. I'm going to make sure that unless it's like a celebration, I am not giving myself the out to eat or drink whatever the hell I want. I'm going to stay on the plan. And then when life gets busy, when it gets crazy, when you're in a busy season at work, that's when you pull back and you go, okay, this is maintenance time. I'll do my best, but I will kind of let into that cycle of I'm going to be really good on the beginning of the week, and then later in the week, maybe I'll let loose a little bit, but not enough to gain weight, but just enough to maintain so I'm not taking steps backward. And then when the life gets a little less nuts, when the seas part, when the clouds start to go away, it's I don't know where I'm going with this, but basically I'm saying when life is now at a reasonable level where you can get back on the plan, you do. So then again, we're getting back into that rhythm of lose, pause, and we never take steps backwards. Okay. And that could also be like when your kids are on a solid schedule too, because sometimes it is the kids that drive the bus when it comes to all this. So during summertime, they're probably doing everything and you're basically the town taxi. Then that's probably not the best time to expect crazy fat loss results. But when they're in school, when they've got a sports schedule that's like militant and you know exactly where they're going to be all the time and you're busy, but you know exactly how to plan for that, maybe that's your time to shine. So understand what your life entails and adjust accordingly and plan with whatever you got going on, because that will be your recipe for success. And those are the 7 things that are secretly stalling your fat loss over 40. I know that I went through a lot of them and I threw a lot at you, but there are certain things that you can do based on what I just told you, how to overcome those. So if you want somebody to just tell you, hey, just do this, that's what coaching is for. So if you heard these things and you're like, man, I don't know if I want to do all of that. I just want like somebody to tell me just this one thing. Let's just think about this one thing and that's going to get you the most bang for your buck. Okay, go ahead in the description or the show notes, wherever you're watching or listening, and click that link and let's just talk about it. Okay, that's a free call for you to take full advantage of. Even if you just want to talk and just say, what should I do? I'm more than happy to have that conversation. And if you want to jump on coaching, then it could literally change your life and we'll start right from there. But if you're not quite there, then at very bare minimum, at least get your Fit40 starter kit. It's got workouts in there, nutrition guides, recipes, and a 7-day reset calendar. So that's also available to you that you can grab right now. Get a free copy. It's down in the show notes or description, just under the coaching link. So give that a click, get your free stuff. And then that way, at least you have the tools that you need to do what you need to do. And if you need the accountability, then you can upgrade later. All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you being here. If at any point in any episode that you listen to, at any point you hear that one thing in your head and you got that family member, that person in your life that you're like, they really need to hear this, go and send it their way. They'll appreciate it. And so will I. So thank you in advance. I'll see you next time. But until then, go kick some ass. Bye-bye.